Conference, the motion before us sets out Labour's radical solution for our country, a new UK People's Constitutional Convention to give voice to and to democratically empower the citizens of this country. I know that many in this hall would rather be focusing on non-constitutional issues this weekend, like how we eradicate poverty, create jobs, fund our public services, and create a better future for all. Yet here we are once again talking about the Constitution. And I think there are three reasons for this, which I'd like to set out at the start. The first reason is fairness, specifically fairness between generations. We have become used to a set narrative in this country of things improving from each generation to the next, with higher average incomes and higher living standards. Now, as the Resolution Foundation and others have shown, our assumptions about rising incomes and higher living standards are being disrupted. The current generation is projected to be the first in modern times that is on average less well off than the last generation. That's young people right across our country feeling their futures are not as bright as they were before, and parents, grandparents, and other family members worrying about their children. We in the Labour movement should not accept this. We must ensure that each successive generation has the opportunity to flourish and prosper. The second reason is inequality. Political power is concentrated in the hands of a few when it should be shared by the many. People across the nations and regions of the UK feel disenfranchised and detached from the political process. Globalisation has left too many feeling that they have no say, no proper stake, and no way of achieving a stake in society. Brexit lifted the lid on these feelings, but it didn't create them. We saw them in the aftermath of the financial crisis and the Scottish independence campaign. This must be addressed, because, Conference, if we in the Labour Party fail to address it, the only winners will be the right and the forces of nationalism. The third reason, Conference, is the competing ideological nationalism of the SNP and the Tories. The SNP's obsession with the Constitution comes as no surprise. For them, the independence referendum was not the end, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity as we were promised, but just the beginning. The Nationalists never accepted the result. We went back to the drawing board and produced a list of potential triggers for another referendum, the length of our arms. But then that's what they do. The fight for independence is what gets them out of bed in the morning, not a thirst to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality, or promote opportunity for all. We will not create a better future for ourselves, our families, our communities by cutting the bonds that unite us. Rather, we must act to strengthen those bonds. And that brings me to the SNP's enablers, the Tories. It is they who are really responsible for this current mess. Nicola Sturgeon's maybe ayes, maybe no's referendum. Thanks to them, the Constitution has barely been off the agenda since the early hours of September the 19th, 2014, when David Cameron, the then Prime Minister, stepped out of number 10 and unveiled English votes for English laws, a policy, incidentally, that was strongly advocated by the SNP. That was followed by a pernicious general election campaign which stoked the embers of English nationalism and placed voters in England and Scotland at loggerheads. And who can forget the election in 2015, when Davidson and our Tories went enthusiastically around the country riding on a manifesto that pledged to have a referendum on the EU. It is that referendum and Brexit, more than anything else, that has destabilised the UK. And while the Tories keep saying Brexit means Brexit, I say Brexit should never ever mean a hard Tory Brexit. And for the record, we should never get tired of asking where our £350 million extra a week is for our NHS. Conference, I voted against the triggering of Article 50, and Labour will continue to oppose a hard Tory Brexit every single step of the way. Yet 12 months after facilitating Brexit, Ruth Davidson was in my constituency, in your constituency, and indeed in her own constituency, telling Scots that the Tories were the only party that could stand up for the Union. A lie then and a lie now. Turbocharged post-truth politics at its very worst. Conference, in the SNP and the Tories, we have two parties, two governments, neither really standing up for Scotland. The Tories want Scotland in the UK, but not in the EU. The SNP wants Scotland in the EU, but not in the UK. And so it falls to this party, the Scottish and UK Labour Party, as it has done so often, to deliver for the common ground. It falls to our leader, Kezia Dugdale, to speak for the majority of people in our country. In Conference, Kez has blazed a trail in recent months, standing up for our party and for the people of Scotland in these incredibly turbulent times, challenging the SNP at every turn in the Scottish Parliament, on our railways, on the NHS, on the budget, on education, on our universities and local government. Kez, we thank you for everything you do for our party and our country every single day. And Kez, the party and the country is behind you as you seek to heal the deep divisions in our society. Our party wants what Scots want, and what actually Scots voted for. Scotland thriving as an integral part of the United Kingdom while having close ties with our neighbours and friends in the European Union. And this is what this motion before us seeks to achieve today. Our vision, the Scottish Labour vision, is for a radical reshaping of the UK that offers a post-Brexit solution that delivers for the four corners of these islands. It's time for a new Act of Union. It has been 300 years since the last one that is fit for purpose in the 21st century. The federal solution we propose would renew and refresh our ailing democracy and give a voice to those who feel they have none. It would allow us to mitigate the failures of the past and lay the foundations for a better future. And it would uphold the democratic will of the Scottish people, a strong Scotland in a secure United Kingdom with a close relationship with Europe. Under our proposals that we're debating today, every component part of the United Kingdom would take on more responsibility for what happens in their own communities, while maintaining the protection of being part of a greater unity. We would enhance the legislative scope of the Scottish Parliament by repatriating powers in devolved areas that will return from Brussels in the coming years. And we should also see further powers devolved to Scotland. As an example, we could transfer powers over workers' rights and the minimum wage to the Scottish Parliament. The UK could set minimum standards for the whole country, a framework on which Scotland could build if it so chooses, like a floor for the national minimum wage, with the exact level determined for Scottish needs in Scotland. However, our vision for the UK settlement should not be prescriptive. The people will decide how they wish to be governed in a People's Constitutional Convention involving citizens and civic institutions across the UK. In the long run, that would mean more power, more autonomy and more accountability for Scotland and for Wales and for Northern Ireland and for the English regions. What it would not mean, Conference, is the intellectually incoherence of full fiscal autonomy or a second independence referendum. The fiscal and currency union, first introduced by the 1707 Act of Union, allows for the redistribution of financial resources across the UK. This pays for our pensions, underpins our social security system, and ensures that those individuals and families who need additional assistance receive it. Thanks to this pooling and sharing of resources, which is based on need, not nationality, public spending in Scotland benefits from being part of the United Kingdom. Dismantling this redistributive system, as the SNP and the right-wing Tories have advocated in championing full fiscal autonomy and independence, would be disastrous for Scotland. It would expose us to a £15 billion budget deficit. Maintaining this fiscal union and the Barnett formula benefits spending in Scotland should be an integral part of our plan. And meanwhile, I want to make it absolutely clear to both Nicola Sturgeon and indeed to Ruth Davidson, the SNP has absolutely no mandate for another Scottish independence referendum. And if the SNP try to push one through, Scottish Labour will oppose it in the Scottish Parliament all the way. Conference, the vision before you today is one of hope and optimism. Our country is divided enough, and it's time we brought it back together. It will mean that every part of the UK and every part of Scotland is contributing to our collective success, and it will reforge our democracy and our society and safeguard it for the future. This is a historic moment for our Scottish Labour Party. Labour, the party of devolution, is now ready to seize the mantle of the party of federalism. The party that stands up for what the majority of people in Scotland want, firmly, unquestionably opposed to independence, but also opposed to the status quo. The party that believes together we're stronger. Today our country is deeply divided, not just by constitutional politics, but by economic inequality. To restore faith in our politics, to build a more united society and create an economy that works for working people, we believe that we need to create a more federal UK. And as the motion before us states this morning, we call for the UK Labour Party to convene a People's Constitutional Convention made up of citizens from across the United Kingdom and to report before the next UK general election. Conference, this is our moment to change the UK forever and for the better. I urge you to back this motion and join us on the path to a brighter future for Scotland and for the UK. I move the motion. Thank you.